the Wire. Today we will discuss something which has been bothering our countrymen for now 3 weeks. The India-China standoff at the tri-junction, well, that's what we are calling it, or that's what our government is calling it, tri-junction of India, Bhutan and China. Essentially, it's a territory between Bhutan and China, and India has moved to the territory to support or defend Bhutan's claim on a certain plateau called Doklam Plateau, where the Chinese are building a road. Now, there's a lot of confusion as to what this territory represents, whether it's a tri-junction at all or whether it is actually Chinese territory. The Chinese have responded yesterday saying that it is clearly their territory, Doklam Plateau, whereas Bhutan has claimed that it's disputed territory. India obviously going with Bhutan, saying that it is disputed. Therefore, India is trying to sort of trying to help Bhutan, as it were. So what exactly is happening there? To discuss that, we have with us an expert, Manoj Joshi. Dr. Manoj Joshi, he's a strategic affairs expert. He's a former member of the National Security Advisory Board under the UPA, and he is currently a distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, a leading think tank, and he's also a columnist. He writes for The Wire also, and in the last 1 week, he has written 3 or 4 authoritative articles in the media on this tricky issue. Welcome to our show, Manoj Joshi. Now, please tell us, for the benefit of our readers, of our viewers and readers, of course, of The Wire, what exactly is happening there? Because not much clarity has come from our side, from the Bhutanese side. The Chinese have been very belligerent. They have used the word, they've used words like India will be kicked out if it does not withdraw in a dignified way, and India on its part is a bit quiet. Even the big aggressive nationalist TV channels have not said anything. They've not declared war on behalf of the Indian regime, which they are prone to doing when it comes to dealing with Pakistan. So what exactly is happening?
Well, you know, the thing is, this is, as the word goes, this is the tri-junction of Sikkim, state of India, Tibet, province, autonomous region of China, and Bhutan.
Okay.
And the issue is exactly where the tri-junction lies.
Okay.
Now, Bhutan, you know, till 1961 didn't even have a map of its own.
Okay.
And so it was the Indian Survey of India which helped them, and then we got a map, and now they've got their own survey, survey system. So the Indian and Bhutanese show the tri-junction near a place called Batangla.
Okay.
But actually it cannot be there because the tri-junction, because we, being the successors of the British in India, are party to what's called the Anglo-Chinese Convention
1890.
of 1890, which decided, pins down very accurately where the tri-junction is.
Okay.
And it says that the tri-junction is at the Bhutan border at Mount Gipmochi.
Gipmochi.
And from Gipmochi, then it goes to Gai Mochin, and then it goes to Dokala, and then it goes to Batangla.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what has happened is that if it is at Gipmochi, then this Doklam Plateau really comes under the under China.
Okay. Which is what China has claimed yesterday.
Which is now they are claiming.
That the Doklam Plateau is clearly Chinese territory.
That's what they say. Now, the thing is that when it comes to India, we are bound by the Anglo-Chinese Convention of 1890.
Okay.
Okay? Because it defines the entire Sikkim border. You can't pick and choose. You can't say, I'll choose this part and not that part.
It's a package. So as per that, Doklam Plateau is Chinese territory.
As per that. But the thing is that the Bhutanese were not party to that convention.
Okay.
The Bhutanese were not party to the convention, so they were simply told that this is your border. So the Bhutanese now say, no, Doklam,
they also have a
claim on it, which is legitimate because their entire border with China is disputed. Now, so you can say that there is a China-Bhutan dispute over Doklam Plateau.
So the next question is, if India has gone there, what should India do next?
Well, what India did was that while the Chinese were building a road in that Doklam area towards a Royal Bhutan Army camp at Zompelri Ridge. There's a ridge there. The Chinese road was approaching there. The Bhutanese probably may have approached us. And so we sent in a group of military people who have sort of cut off the Chinese road building team.
Okay.
You know, we sent them from Dokala. Now, Dokala is where the Indian and the Chinese border are supposed to separate. You see, on one side is India, on the other side is the Doklam Plateau. Now, the Chinese are saying you have entered our territory and you have violated the Convention of 1890 because that defines the border very clearly.
And they're saying this internationally now. They're taking this.
Yeah. But it's true, meaning that the point is that as far as India and China are concerned, there is no doubt as to where the border lies.
Okay.
Because it has been demarcated.
As per the 1890 treaty, it's clearly in Chinese territory.
Well, you know, this is where the problem lies.
Bhutan may claim something different.
Let me put it another way. It's not in Indian territory.
Okay, it's not in Indian territory. Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So it is in a territory disputed between China and Bhutan.
Bhutan, okay.
To be accurate. Okay? So the Chinese claim that territory, the Bhutanese claim the territory. The thing is that the Bhutanese have been very quiet on this, and the Chinese have been very voluble on this.
And India?
And India also, there have been, there's a tendency to fudge issues because in the sense, as I told you, Mount Gipmochi is the tri-junction. I don't think anyone will question. But they are saying that subsequently, Pandit Nehru at one point affirmed the Anglo-Chinese Convention, and then subsequently he also resiled from it and said that no, where tri-junction is, there is some problem. And then they are saying that in 2012, when the special representatives were meeting, the Indian side put in a caveat saying that wherever there are tri-junctions, we need to still decide where the border is. But I'm not sure about the 2012 thing because the special representatives meetings records are not public, and this is something which was said in a background briefing.
But you have said that you've written this, that Bhutan started claiming, staking claim to Doklam Plateau, which is the main bone of contention, where the Chinese are building a road. Was Bhutan's claim was made only in 2010? 2000, okay. See, so it's a very recent event.
It's a very recent event in the sense that in the late 90s, see, I told you Bhutan didn't even have a map.
Yeah.
So for a long time, even for example, the India-Bhutan border has only been settled as of 2006.
Okay.
You know, because there was no border. But you know, when Bhutan went for the 14th round of talks with Chinese in 2000.
They've had 24 rounds so far, right?
Yeah, but when they went for the 14th round in 2000, in November 2000, that's the first time they said, look, we are also, we claim Doklam.
So what do you make, Manoj, of India's position as of now? A lot of strategic experts say that this is the most serious face-off between India and China in the last maybe 30 years. So how do you see this unfolding? Who blinks first?
See, the thing is that there are many people in India who are getting worked up on the issue because this Doklam Plateau, maybe 40 square kilometers, is to the south of where India believes the tri-junction is, and is close to the Siliguri corridor, which is a kind of a very vulnerable area for India. My point is that militarily it doesn't make much of a difference. We have strong defenses in Sikkim. We have very strong defenses in the Siliguri corridor. So it's not as though the Chinese can come walking down. It's a mountain terrain. So I think this is something which we really ought to encourage China and Bhutan to settle. Okay. Bhutan is a friend of ours.
So for that to happen, do you think we'll have to withdraw first, or what?
I think we will have to.
In any case, it's not our territory. Even if it's a dispute between Bhutan and China.
Yeah. Right? As I said, it's certainly not Indian territory. It is disputed between China and Bhutan. So the best course would be that the Chinese and the Bhutanese resolve this as quickly as possible. But I think that the Chinese have put their prestige into it. They have refused the Bhutanese once when the Bhutanese requested them. they wanted to swap their other claims. They have claims. The Chinese have claims in Western Bhutan as well. So they said we will concede those claims if you give us this Doklam Plateau.
I read about that yesterday in the Hindu. The Chinese spokesperson has said that China is actually trying to do a swap with Bhutan, willing to give them a larger area north of this territory and take much less in this area where they're building a road. Basically, China is doing that so as to gain advantage vis-a-vis India, to be closer to the Siliguri corridor, which from an Indian standpoint has a big security implication.
Yeah, but true? My point is that a advance of 20, 30 kilometers, let's say as a crow flies from Batangla to Gipmochi is about 7 kilometers. Okay. So when you're talking a mountain trail, it may be 20 kilometers.
Yeah.
So it will become 20 kilometers less. So let's say if that area, if the Chumbi Valley is about 150 kilometers from the Siliguri corridor, or from Siliguri, from the corridor it's closer. Then a difference of 15-20 kilometers militarily doesn't make much of a difference. So I think that we are overstating the military aspects, but because don't forget one thing. If we think that the Siliguri corridor is vulnerable, equally the Chinese think the Chumbi Valley is vulnerable. Because Chumbi Valley, on one side of Chumbi Valley, we have very strong forces in Sikkim. And in northern Sikkim, we have even in 1986-87, General Sundarji emplaced armor, tanks, and.
So essentially, what you're saying is that this is a package deal. The boundary between India and China, as determined by the 1890 treaty. You're saying that if status quo is disturbed in one place, it could get disturbed across the anywhere across the larger border, right?
If you reopen the treaty, if you say that we don't agree with that convention, then of course you are even having voices in China saying that we'll question the accession of Sikkim to India.
Okay, yeah.
I have even heard that kind of stuff. So I'm saying that when some part of the border is settled and it is demarcated, which means there are pillars on the ground which lay out where it is supposed to be. I think it would be a bit hazardous to open it up, because the Chinese have, for example, in the northern Sikkim, in what is called the finger area, there they have some issues.
Okay.
So they may also have issues. We also have issues. So I think, as I said, the best solution is that
China and Bhutan resolve it among themselves. India kind of steps back.
But it is true. It is true, of course, that Bhutan is a very small country, and the Chinese, are prone to bullying tactics. They push and they create facts on the ground. They build a road, and they said, well, the road is,
So what could have been, Manoj, India's motivation to do this?
Basically, to help
strategic
Bhutan.
motivation.
No, strategic motivation is two. One is to help a very close friend Bhutan. In South Asia, and the second is this whole issue of this belief that Doklam Plateau will give China some kind of an advantage in Siliguri corridor, which, as I told you, I'm not particularly.
Which you say maybe a bit exaggerated.
Yeah, it's a bit exaggerated, because I think the thing is that if we are vulnerable there, the Chinese are also vulnerable in the Chumbi Valley. We can occupy the Chumbi Valley. Okay. Meaning, if you have a commander who is bold and you have very strong forces in Sikkim.
Then why has this got so serious? So serious that the Chinese from the other side every second they are making threatening statements, and one of the statements, of course, one was that if we don't withdraw with dignity, we might be kicked out. The one before that was India should learn lessons from 1962. What do you make of the Chinese rhetoric? They are not normally given to escalating their rhetoric in this manner.
I think they, in this case, they feel that we have violated a key principle with regard to this. It's an international border, settled border.
In fact, they have said that we are violating our own punch shield principles.
See, it's like the India-Pakistan border. Now, if things happen on the line of control, there's no problem. But if a similar thing happens in the international border, people cross it, or if we go and occupy their territory, there are repercussions on that. And of course, don't forget that when the Pakistanis crossed the LOC in Kargil, we went to war on that.
Yeah.
You see? So the countries do feel sensitive about this. And as I told you, that for the Chinese, we may see Chumbi Valley as a you know, a threat to India, but the Chinese feel threatened that Chumbi Valley could be occupied suddenly.
Yeah.
And don't forget in what was it now, 1904, I think, Chumbi Valley was the route which Sir Francis' young husband took to attack Lhasa and Tibet. So this route, you know, it's the easiest route between Lhasa and Kolkata is via the Chumbi Valley.
Chumbi Valley, okay.
You know, so they all they have a sense of vulnerability as well out there. And when they look at the forces on the ground, we are much stronger there. Meaning in Sikkim as well as in the Siliguri corridor, India has very strong forces there.
Okay, so so tell me, what is this? What are the implications for India-China relations? How do you see this particular event, this episode, impacting?
You know, India-China relations have been sort of deteriorating ever since Mr. Modi.
Would you regard this episode as an important marker in the deterioration of India-China relations?
Definitely, because you know, in the sense that ever since Mr. Modi has come to power, I don't think the government has handled its Chinese relationship very well. So they have taken up issues like you know, inconsequential issues like the nuclear suppliers group, or have taken up the issue of Masood Azhar and hyped it up in a public campaign against China. So China has been fairly.
The NSG issue was hyped up to a point. Now it seems Indian government is not talking too much about it, right?
You know, but the point was, what was?
I mean, talking too much about China's role in denying them a membership.
But what was the point in hyping it up to that level to start with? Meaning, when last year Mr.
So what purpose has this served? That's what you asked.
Yeah. So I'm saying last year when Mr. Modi met Xi Jinping at Astana, he requested a one-on-one meeting. They had a one-on-one meeting, and he spent 45 minutes just trying to convince Xi that they should support us on NSG. And you know, the point is that the Chinese have taken a policy decision. They're not going to support you. And there was little point in Modi talking to him on that issue. So I think there have been a lot of missteps.
So would you say that we have mishandled our relationship with China in the last 3 years?
Yes, we have certainly mishandled our relationship with China. We have, as I said, focused on the inconsequential things, whereas we should have focused on things, because you have a strong leader in China, Xi Jinping, you have a strong leader in India. This is the opportunity where you could have actually gone in for a border settlement. On the other hand, very, very distinctly, Mr. Modi tilted towards the United States. He signed the joint strategic vision for on Asia Pacific and the Indian Ocean. When Obama came here, then he joined the LIMOA. And so the Chinese are definitely spooked by all this, because after all, the joint strategic vision in Asia Pacific really relates to the South China Sea, and we mentioned the South China Sea navigation issues in some of the joint statements with the United States. So the Chinese have been seeing this kind of Indians drifting to the United States, but in the Modi period, the movement has been sharper. You see, and that has, I think, the Chinese say, well, these guys, they say they are non-aligned, but doesn't look like it. They look like they are tilting towards the United States.
Coming back to this episode, the Doklam Plateau episode, Manoj, you rightly said that this is between Bhutan and China to sort out, to resolve, right? Now, how do you describe Bhutan's psychology at this moment? They're a very small state. They would be very insecure. Do you think they would have enough confidence that India would go all the way backing them militarily? Because you said that India doesn't have a military alliance with Bhutan.
That's the thing. Bhutan is extremely vulnerable. It lacks the capacity. all across its borders, Chinese are building roads, they enter their territory, Tibetan grazers come into Bhutanese territory, and they are unable to do anything about it. Now, in this case, of course, I think when they saw something serious happening, they asked for Indian help, and that's what has triggered this off.
Yeah.
But the Chinese have already built roads in the Doklam area.
Yeah.
There are already roads there. I mean, if you just go into the Google Earth, you can see those roads out there. So they don't have the capacity, they don't have the military to constantly police the area. We have a brigade-sized training mission in Bhutan.
Yeah.
But you know, all that the 2007 treaty does is to say that you know, we will. Earlier, India used to guide their foreign policy, but now we have had a new India-Bhutan Friendship Treaty. All that says is that we are committed to cooperate closely with each other on issues relating to their national interest.
Okay, that's a very broad brush statement.
Absolutely, that we are committed to coordinate on issues relating to our national interest. So this doesn't really have any automatic, you know, clause which India gets into the situation,
which triggers a kind of military assistance.
Yeah,
automatically.
military assistance automatically. So now this is something which Bhutan has to consider, how vulnerable it's feeling, and of course Chinese, you know, who kind of have become, who have a tendency to push around people, they have to ask themselves that, you know, how do we play this?
Manoj, what are the chances of a limited military conflict? Because there are some strategic experts who are saying that India will not withdraw, and this face-off and this will continue for a while. Now, how do you see this going forward?
You see, the thing is that I think relative to China, we are in a stronger position there. And
but we are in that tri-junction you're talking about.
Yeah, in the Doklam area. So Chinese would have to build up forces, and that would become pretty obvious.
But suppose, as you said, the Chinese they open up some other area along the border.
Of course, that's
where
true.
They are stronger than India.
That's true. Then that can.
Because they have a 4,000-kilometer border with China, right?
There are many places where it can happen. If that happens, then of course we are in.
Violated its 1998 agreement with Bhutan, and
India has jumped into this.
Into this
situation. So you know, all three parties they have what should I say, done things they shouldn't have, and they are being very opaque about it.
Okay.
It's not there's not much clarity. Of course, the Chinese making many statements and things like that, but they're not. As I said, that they are not referring to the fact that there's the 1998 agreement, that there should be no alteration of status quo, and that in those circumstances, I think that all sides need to sort of calm down.
And do you think, Manoj, there are some backroom kind of discussions going on between India and China? Because by all accounts, this has been on now for more than 20 days, 3 weeks plus. And Prime Minister, NSA, all the key players have been traveling to the US, to other countries, now to Israel. Do you think there is some sort of war room or something like that back here that is monitoring the situation?
Prime Minister was briefed by the NSA and the Foreign Secretary, I think the other day. So I'm sure that they are kind of monitoring the situation closely and keeping an eye on it. So we may, you know, in the sense that if there is sense prevails, people will build this down. Otherwise, in these
India withdrawing, will it be seen as a kind of loss of face, given the kind of nationalist fervor that is politically getting created domestically?
You see, that's the thing. You can withdraw without saying you're withdrawing. Meaning, in the sense that if you just, all the government has to do is to stop leaking to the media, and they and the Chinese can agree that neither side will speak to the media. Then you do your withdrawal. No one knows whether you have withdrawn or not withdrawn. so we've gone through this before in 1986-87 when we had the Sundarongchu crisis and when the armies were mobilized.
So it depends on how you manage your domestic politics, because often it's domestic politics which escalates and triggers these kind of situations.
Well, I think that it would be very foolish if domestic politics is used for this. I think what is really required is managing the narrative effectively, managing it in such a way that it doesn't put you on a course towards war.
Okay. So thank you very much, Dr. Manoj Joshi, for talking to us. That's all we have for now. We'll stay with this issue in the coming days, and we'll bring updates.